You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. What is Doria for? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There are many questions that continue to puzzle people. There are many questions which continue to cause people to flex their grey matter. For instance, why do fools fall in love? Is time a human-made construct? Does doing a bad deed make someone a bad person? How the dickens did James Corden, arsehole, become famous? What did teeth taste like? Why do round pizzas come in square boxes? What is consciousness? Does free will exist? Is there an order in nature, or is everything chaos and chance? And what is Doria Ragland for? As you know, Doria Ragland is Harry's wife's mother. She disappeared from Harry's wife's life a number of years ago for a number of years. Nobody's got to the bottom of where she went and why. Various people believe that she was incarcerated, with various reasons offered as to what caused that incarceration. Her father was the one that brought her up. But he's been disengaged from. A non-intimate secondary source has been placed by the wayside. Fairly unusual for that to happen, but happen it has. But Doria still has an involvement. She popped up here and there throughout the Shitflix docu-series, and we know that she was the one who was often filming Harry's wife and taking photographs to contribute to the material that then ended up in that. We know that she stayed at Monty Shit Show for a period of time. We saw her recently attending the Women of Vision Awards and sitting in a taxi, staring at her phone as part of the supposed near-catastrophic car chase. But what is she for with regard to Harry's wife? Well, first of all, as her mother, she is a non-intimate secondary source within her fuel matrix. If Harry were to escape and not be hoovered back in through an initial Grand Hoover, her mother would likely become a non-intimate partner primary source until such time as Harry's wife could find an intimate partner primary source. And thus, she is of importance. She's of moderate importance in terms of her position in the fuel matrix, but she has added importance because she's a lieutenant. She's somebody that Harry's wife can rely upon to do her bidding. Lieutenants to a narcissist can be drawn from empathic people, normal people, narcissistic people, and as is the case with Doria Ragland, narcissists. Some narcissists are useful as lieutenants because they're lessers and they're used as attack dogs. A more evolved narcissist controls that individual, often with the promise of reward or the utilization of punishment. And thus, the attack dog narcissist is wheeled out to do the higher echelon narcissist bidding, acting as a lieutenant. Doria isn't a public attack dog, but behind the scenes, she's undoubtedly utilized for the purposes of keeping control of Harry, ganging up on the poor Ginger Prince as a consequence of a pincer movement between Harry's wife and Doria. It will be the case that Harry's wife will often say, "My mum and I think this," thus making him outnumbered in his own home. She will say, "My mum thinks this about you," or "My mum said you said this," revising history but giving it authenticity, as seeing as it doesn't come from Harry's wife, but that it apparently comes from the mother. She will support her daughter because, in this instance, there is a degree of narcissist cementation between Harry's wife and Harry's wife's mother. This is because Doria Ragland carries out what her daughter requires because it allows her access to a rather pleasant place to live, access to a considerable sum of money, access to events such as attending the Women of Vision Awards. And therefore her narcissism recognizes, let's keep things harmonious with the daughter because it allows us greater assertion of control over people, which includes the Prince of Pink Pancakes. It allows access to more fuel. It allows access to more character traits and also those residual benefits. There will doubtless be occasions where they will rub up against one another, but largely there's narcissistic cementation between the two for two reasons. One, they're not together all of the time, which reduces the prospect of threats to one another's control. And secondly, her narcissism recognises there are advantages to, in effect, keeping the daughter sweet. Harry's wife also sees an advantage through her narcissism subconsciously, because her narcissism recognises that Doria can be used for the purposes of assertion of control over Harry within the domestic environment, basically the two women ganging up on him. But also, Harry's wife's narcissism utilises Doria as a walking, talking race card. You see, Harry's wife doesn't actually believe that she's black. She's a quarter black to begin with, and as many people have remarked, if you were to look at her, you'd be hard-pressed to see that she is. This is because she sought to eradicate her colour. Straightens her hair, she's adjusted her nose, she's adjusted her jawline, she spray tans when it's appropriate for the purposes of trying to look a little bit blacker than she actually is. So she makes a mockery of that aspect of who she is. She doesn't want to identify as black because she sees no purpose to be served in that hitherto. She put that she was Caucasian on her resume. She's only ever dated white men. However, her narcissism recognises now that she's achieved a position of prominence that there is some value in hailing herself as a person of colour. But rather than hold herself out in that way, what she does is she does it through the character trait acquisition of her mother, because her mother is more noticeably black than she is. Thus, Harry's wife gets to change her hair to the way that she thinks is more attractive, gets to change her nose and her chin to what she thinks is more attractive. But at the same time, like any narcissist, she has her cake and eats it. I want to eradicate the colour aspects of me because I don't think they're as attractive, but at the same time, I want to keep the colour aspects of me because that's pretty useful for asserting control and drawing fuel. That is what her narcissism is doing subconsciously. And therefore, it can achieve both aims. It allows her to change her looks, but at the same time maintains her blackness, her person of colour credentials, by keeping her mother around. And thus, through that character trait acquisition, is basically saying, look, there's a reminder that I'm a person of colour because you can see this is my mother. See, my mother, she's noticeably black, therefore I'll keep her around. She can come to this event with me. She can come to the Grenfell Tower cookbook thing, and then I'll give her the death stare. She can be around the house. She can feature here and there in the Shitflix docuseries. We can talk about the fact that she regularly visits and stays, etc. You can see her in the background, in the cab, and so on and so forth. And thus it serves a purpose. Thus, what is Doria for? She's there, of course, to cater to her daughter's needs, both in terms of acting as a lieutenant for her and through significant character trait acquisition by virtue of maintaining Harry's wife's links to being a person of colour. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.